The massive passenger ship Stellar Dawn moved through space like a floating city. Its silver hull gleamed under the distant stars as it carried 300 people from Earth to Kepler Station. The journey would take 5 days, and most passengers had settled into their routines by the second morning. Maya Johnson sat in seat 4A, looking out the large window at the endless black space dotted with bright stars. She was 16 years old with dark skin and bright eyes that showed her intelligence. Her curly hair was pulled back in a neat ponytail, and she wore a simple blue dress that her mother had bought for this special trip. Maya had never been on a spaceship before. She had won a scholarship to study advanced engineering at the university on Kepler Station. Her grades in math and science were so good that the program had paid for everything, including a first-class ticket on this fancy ship. The first-class section was beautiful. The seats were wide and comfortable, covered in soft leather. Each passenger had their own entertainment screen and could order special meals from the kitchen. Maya felt lucky to be here, but she also felt a little out of place. Most of the other first-class passengers were older adults in expensive clothes. She opened her tablet and started reading about her new school. The engineering program was one of the best in all the human colonies. Students came from many different planets to study there. Maya smiled as she read about the advanced robotics lab where she would work. "Excuse me, but I think you're in the wrong section." Maya looked up to see a man standing in the aisle next to her seat. He was about 50 years old with gray hair and pale skin. He wore an expensive suit and had gold rings on his fingers. His face showed that he was not happy. "I'm sorry," Maya said politely. "I don't understand." The man's name was Richard Hamilton, though Maya didn't know this yet. He pointed at her seat. "This is first class. I think you made a mistake when you got on the ship." Maya felt her stomach tighten, but she kept her voice calm. "No, sir, this is my seat. I have my ticket right here." She reached into her bag and pulled out her boarding pass. It clearly showed seat 4A in first class. Hamilton barely looked at the ticket. "Listen, I'm sure you're a nice girl, but there's obviously been some kind of mistake. Maybe someone felt sorry for you and upgraded your ticket as a joke. But this section is for people who can actually afford to be here." Other passengers started to notice the conversation. Some turned in their seats to watch. Maya felt her face getting warm, but she tried to stay polite. "Sir, this is really my seat. I have a scholarship to study engineering on Kepler Station. The program paid for my ticket." Hamilton laughed, but it was not a kind laugh. "Engineering? Come on, be serious. Look, I don't want to cause trouble, but you clearly don't belong here. Just move back to economy class where you'll be more comfortable with your own people." Maya's hands started to shake a little, but she kept them steady. She had heard words like this before, but never on a spaceship far from Earth. "My ticket is real, sir. I'm not moving." "What's going on here?" asked a voice from behind Hamilton. A woman in a ship uniform walked over. She was Captain Linda Martinez, a tall woman with short black hair and kind eyes. She had been walking through first class to check on passengers when she heard the argument. Hamilton turned to face the captain. "Captain, thank goodness. There's been a mistake with the seating. This girl is in first class, but she obviously doesn't have the right ticket." Captain Martinez looked at Maya's boarding pass. It was clearly real and showed seat 4A. "Mr. Hamilton, this young lady's ticket is perfectly valid. She has every right to sit here." "That's impossible," Hamilton said, his voice getting louder. "Look at her. Does she look like she belongs in first class? Someone must have given her a fake ticket or upgraded her as some kind of charity case." More passengers were watching now. An elderly couple in seats 2C and 2D looked uncomfortable. A businesswoman across the aisle shook her head at Hamilton's words, but some other passengers just looked away, not wanting to get involved. Maya felt tears starting to form in her eyes, but she would not let them fall. She had worked too hard to get here. Her parents had been so proud when she won the scholarship. She was not going to let this man ruin her dream. "Sir," Captain Martinez said firmly, "all passengers in first class have valid tickets. Miss Johnson's scholarship program specifically includes first-class travel. There is no mistake." Hamilton's face turned red. "I don't care what program she claims to be in. I paid good money for my ticket, and I didn't pay to sit next to people like her, either." She moves, or I want to speak to whoever is in charge of this ship. I am in charge of this ship, Captain Martinez said. Her voice was calm but strong. And I'm telling you that Miss Johnson is exactly where she should be. This is ridiculous, Hamilton said loudly. Several passengers from economy class had come to see what the noise was about. I have friends in the Colonial Transit Authority. They'll hear about this. You can't just let anyone sit anywhere they want. Maya finally spoke up. I'm not anyone, sir. I earned my place here through hard work and good grades. I have as much right to be here as you do. Hamilton looked at her with anger in his eyes. Little girl, you need to learn your place. Just because some bleeding heart program gave you charity doesn't mean you can act like you're equal to paying customers. The words hit Maya like a punch. She had never been talked to like this by a stranger. At home, her parents and teachers had always treated her with respect. Her father worked for the government and had taught her to be proud of who she was. Captain Martinez stepped between Hamilton and Maya. Mr. Hamilton, you need to return to your seat immediately. If you continue to harass other passengers, I'll have security remove you from this section. Security? Hamilton laughed. You're going to call security on me? I'm the one being discriminated against here. I'm a first-class passenger and I shouldn't have to put up with this social experiment. Maya stood up from her seat. She was much smaller than Hamilton, but she looked directly at him. I'm not an experiment, sir. I'm a student going to school. Just like you're probably a businessman going to work. We're both passengers on this ship, and we both have the right to be treated with respect. Hamilton stared at her for a moment, surprised by her calm confidence. Then his face got even angrier. Don't you dare lecture me, young lady. I've been traveling in first class since before you were born. I know what kind of people belong here and what kind don't. The argument was attracting attention from all over the ship now. Even some crew members had stopped their work to watch. Maya noticed that several passengers were recording the scene with their phones. Captain Martinez pressed a button on her communication device. Security to First Class Section A, please. You're making a big mistake, Captain, Hamilton said. When my lawyers hear about this, you'll wish you had handled this situation properly. Some people need to learn that charity has its limits. Maya sat back down in her seat. She was shaking now, but not from fear. She was angry that someone could be so cruel to a stranger. She thought about her parents back on Earth. Her father always said that bullies were usually cowards inside. Maybe Hamilton was just scared of something she couldn't understand. But Maya Johnson had no idea that her father was much closer than she thought, or that this argument was about to become much more serious than anyone could imagine. 2 security officers arrived in the first-class section within minutes. They wore dark blue uniforms with the Stellar Dawn logo on their shoulders. The older officer was named Gary Wells, and he had been working on passenger ships for 15 years. He had seen arguments before, but this one felt different. What seems to be the problem here? Officer Wells asked Captain Martinez. Before the captain could answer, Hamilton stepped forward. Officer, thank you for coming. This girl is sitting in first class with what I believe is a fraudulent ticket. The captain refuses to move her to the appropriate section. Officer Wells looked at Maya, who was still sitting quietly in her seat. She handed him her boarding pass without being asked. He examined it carefully under his scanner device. The ticket was completely legitimate. Sir, this ticket is real, Officer Wells said to Hamilton. It was purchased by the Kepler Engineering Scholarship Program 3 weeks ago. Everything is in order. Hamilton's face turned even redder. I don't care who supposedly bought it. Look at this situation with common sense. Does she look like she belongs here? Someone made a mistake, or worse, someone is running some kind of scam. Maya finally spoke up. Mr. Hamilton, I showed you my acceptance letter to the university. I showed you my ticket. What more do you want? I want you to stop pretending you're something you're not, Hamilton snapped. I've been flying first class for 20 years. I know the type of people who can afford these seats. You're not fooling anyone. Captain Martinez had heard enough. Mr. Hamilton, you need to return to your seat immediately. Miss Johnson has done nothing wrong. Nothing wrong? Hamilton laughed loudly. She's taking up space that belongs to real first-class passengers. I paid 15,000 credits for my ticket. I didn't pay to sit next to some charity case who probably comes from the worst part of Earth. The other passengers were watching with growing discomfort. An elderly man in seat 3B stood up. "Sir, you're being very rude. That young lady has been nothing but polite." Hamilton turned to face the elderly man. "Stay out of this, old man. This doesn't concern you." "It concerns all of us," said the businesswoman across the aisle. "You're disturbing everyone with your shouting." Hamilton looked around at the other passengers. Some were nodding in agreement with the businesswoman. Others looked away, not wanting to get involved. A few seemed to agree with Hamilton, but stayed quiet. "Fine," Hamilton said. "If you all want to pretend this is normal, go ahead. But I'm not sitting down until this problem is solved properly." Captain Martinez pressed her communication device again. "Bridge, this is Captain Martinez. I need to speak with you privately about a passenger situation." Hamilton heard this and smiled. "Good. Maybe now someone with authority will handle this correctly." Maya felt her heart beating fast. She had never been in a situation like this before. At home, her parents had taught her about discrimination, but experiencing it was much worse than just hearing about it. She wanted to call her parents, but she knew the communication delay meant she wouldn't hear back from them for hours. "I'd like to make a quantum call to my parents on Earth," Maya said to Captain Martinez. "Of course," the captain replied. "Officer Wells will show you to the communication room." Hamilton stepped in front of Maya as she tried to get up. "Oh, now. You're calling for help? What are your parents going to do from Earth? Send more fake tickets?" Maya looked directly at Hamilton. "My parents will want to know that I arrived safely and that I'm being treated well on this ship." "Treated well?" Hamilton laughed. "You're being treated better than you deserve. Most ships wouldn't allow this kind of situation." Officer Wells gently moved Hamilton aside. "Sir, you need to let the young lady pass. She has the right to make a communication call." As Maya walked toward the communication room, she noticed something strange. Near the back of the first-class section, there were 3 passengers who didn't look human. They had been so quiet that most people hadn't noticed them. One looked like a tall, thin person with blue-gray skin. Another had large eyes and wore a hooded robe. The third was shorter but had 4 arms and was covered in what looked like soft fur. Maya had heard about aliens living in the galaxy, but she had never seen any in person. They seemed to be watching the argument very carefully. When she looked at them, they quickly looked away. In the communication room, Maya sat down at the quantum transmitter. These machines could send messages across the galaxy instantly, but because of the complex technology, there was always a delay before you could receive an answer. She typed a message to her parents. "Mom and Dad, I'm on the ship to Kepler Station. There's been a problem with another passenger who doesn't think I should be in first class. The captain is helping me, but I wanted you to know what's happening. I love you both. Maya." She sent the message and knew she would have to wait at least 3 hours for a reply. Maya walked back to the first-class section, hoping the situation had calmed down. But Hamilton hadn't moved from her seat area. If anything, he seemed more angry than before. "Where did you go?" he demanded. "To make up a story about why you should be here?" "I contacted my parents to let them know about the situation," Maya said calmly. Hamilton laughed. "Your parents? What are they going to do? Send you money they don't have? Face it, little girl, you're on your own out here. Nobody is coming to save you." Captain Martinez returned from the bridge with a serious look on her face. "Mr. Hamilton, I've spoken with my superiors. You have 2 choices. You can return to your seat and behave properly, or you can be moved to a security cabin for the rest of the journey." "Security cabin?" Hamilton's voice got even louder. "You're threatening to lock me up because I pointed out an obvious problem? This is unbelievable. Wait until my lawyer hears about this. Wait until the Colonial Transit Authority hears how you treat paying customers." "The Colonial Transit Authority will be very interested in your behavior, Mr. Hamilton," Captain Martinez said. "All passenger interactions on this ship are recorded for safety purposes." Hamilton's face went pale for a moment, but then he got angry again. "I don't care what's being recorded. I'm not the one causing problems here, she is." He pointed at Maya. "I've been patient, but this has gone on long enough." Maya stood up from her seat. Mr. Hamilton, I don't understand why you hate me so much. I never did anything to hurt you. I'm just a student trying to go to school. It's not about you personally, Hamilton said. It's about maintaining standards. Some things are meant for some people and other things are meant for other people. That's just how the world works. That's not how the world should work, Maya replied. People should be judged by their actions, not by how they look. Hamilton stepped closer to Maya. Little girl, you have a lot to learn about the real world. Your parents obviously didn't teach you about knowing your place. My parents taught me that I can achieve anything if I work hard enough, Maya said. They taught me to treat everyone with respect, even people who don't treat me with respect. Well, your parents were wrong, Hamilton said. And if they were here right now, I'd tell them exactly what I think about their parenting. Maya felt tears starting to form in her eyes, but she refused to let them fall. You don't know anything about my parents. You don't know anything about me. Hamilton smiled in a mean way. I know enough. I know that you don't belong here. And I know that you never will. The sooner you accept that, the easier your life will be. The alien passengers were still watching quietly. The one with blue-gray skin was taking notes on a small device. The one in the hooded robe was whispering to the furry one with 4 arms. Maya wondered what they were thinking about this argument between humans. Captain Martinez looked frustrated. Mr. Hamilton, this is your final warning. Sit down and stop harassing Miss Johnson, or I will have you removed from this section immediately. Hamilton looked around at all the people watching him. Some passengers were clearly on Maya's side. Others seemed uncomfortable with the whole situation, but Hamilton seemed to think he still had support. Fine, he said loudly. If nobody else will say it, I will. I'm not sitting next to her and I'm not staying quiet about it. If something doesn't change soon, I'll make sure everyone on this ship knows exactly what kind of operation you're running here. Maya sat back down in her seat, feeling exhausted from the argument. She had never imagined that getting a scholarship to study engineering would lead to something like this. She looked out the window at the stars and wondered what her parents would say when they got her message. She had no idea that her father was about to become involved in ways that would shock everyone on the ship. Hamilton was getting louder and more aggressive by the minute. He had been arguing for almost an hour now, and other passengers were starting to look very uncomfortable. Some had put on headphones to block out the noise. Others had moved to different seats to get away from the conflict. I'm not backing down, Hamilton declared to Captain Martinez. This girl needs to learn that she can't just take whatever she wants, and you need to learn how to run a proper ship. Maya sat quietly in her seat, trying not to cry. She had never felt so alone in her life. The stars outside the window seemed cold and distant. She wished she was back home with her parents, but she also knew she couldn't give up on her dream of becoming an engineer. Mr. Hamilton, you're disturbing the entire section, Captain Martinez said. I'm going to ask you one more time to return to your seat. I'm not moving until she moves, Hamilton replied. And if you try to make me, I'll make sure everyone knows how this ship treats its real customers. The 3 alien passengers were still watching everything. The one with blue-gray skin had been taking notes the whole time. The furry one with 4 arms was whispering something to the one in the hooded robe. Maya wondered what they thought of this argument between humans. Suddenly, a deep voice came from behind Hamilton. Excuse me, is there a problem here? Everyone turned to look at the man who had just spoken. He was tall and strong-looking, with dark skin like Maya's. He wore a simple black shirt and pants, but there was something about the way he carried himself that made people notice him. His eyes were calm but alert, like someone who was used to handling difficult situations. Maya's heart jumped when she saw him. Dad, she whispered. Hamilton looked at the new man with annoyance. Great, another one. Look, this doesn't concern you. Just keep walking. The man smiled slightly. Actually, it does concern me. That's my daughter you've been bothering. Hamilton's mouth fell open for a moment, then he recovered. Your daughter? Well, that explains everything. I should have known she didn't pay for that ticket herself. What's that supposed to mean? Maya's father asked. His voice was still calm, but there was something dangerous in his tone. It means somebody felt sorry for her and bought her a ticket she couldn't afford, Hamilton said. Look, I'm sure you're proud of your daughter. but she doesn't belong in first class. This section is for people who can actually afford to be here. Maya's father stepped closer to Hamilton. My daughter earned her place here through hard work and intelligence. She has every right to sit in first class. Hamilton laughed. Right. And I suppose you're going to tell me you can afford first-class tickets too? I can afford whatever my daughter needs, Maya's father replied. Sure you can, Hamilton said sarcastically. Let me guess. You work for the government in some low-level job and you think that makes you special? Maya's father didn't answer immediately. He looked at Captain Martinez, who nodded slightly. The captain had been expecting this moment. Actually, Maya's father said, reaching into his pocket, I do work for the government. He pulled out a black leather wallet and opened it. Inside was a gold badge that caught the light from the ship's ceiling. Next to the badge was an identification card with his photo and name. My name is Agent Marcus Johnson, he said calmly. Federal Bureau of Investigation. Hamilton stared at the badge for a long moment. His face went from red to white very quickly. The other passengers leaned forward to get a better look. Even the alien passengers seemed more interested now. FBI? Hamilton whispered. That's right, Agent Johnson said. And I've been listening to you harass my daughter for the past hour. Hamilton tried to regain his composure. Well, that's different. I mean, if you're really FBI, then obviously there's been a misunderstanding. What kind of misunderstanding? Agent Johnson asked. Well, I just thought, she didn't look like... Hamilton was struggling to find words. She didn't look. Like what? Agent Johnson's voice was getting colder. Hamilton looked around at all the people watching him. The businesswoman across the aisle was shaking her head at him. The elderly couple looked disgusted. Even some of the passengers who had been quiet before were now clearly on Maya's side. Look, Agent Johnson, I think we got off on the wrong foot, Hamilton said, trying to sound friendly. I'm a businessman myself. I understand how these things work. Maybe we can just forget this whole thing happened. Agent Johnson closed his wallet and put it back in his pocket. Forget what happened? You mean forget how you tried to humiliate my daughter? Forget how you said she didn't belong here because of the color of her skin? I never said anything about color, Hamilton protested weakly. You didn't have to, Agent Johnson replied. Everyone here knows exactly what you meant. Captain Martinez stepped forward. Agent Johnson, I want to apologize for what happened to your daughter. We've been trying to handle the situation appropriately. You handled it fine, Captain, Agent Johnson said. But I think Mr. Hamilton and I need to have a private conversation. Hamilton's face was now completely white. A private conversation? Look, Agent Johnson, I'm sure we can work this out. I'm a respected businessman. I have friends in high places. I'm sure you do, Agent Johnson said. But right now we need to talk about your behavior toward my daughter. Maya watched her father with amazement. She had always known he worked for the FBI, but she had never seen him use his authority like this. At home, he was just her dad who helped her with homework and made pancakes on Sunday mornings. But now she could see why criminals would be afraid of him. Dad, Maya said quietly, it's okay. I can handle this. Agent Johnson looked at his daughter with pride. I know you can, sweetheart. You've been handling it beautifully, but sometimes adults need to step in when other adults forget how to behave. Hamilton was looking around desperately as if hoping someone would help him. But all the other passengers were clearly on Maya's side now. Even the ones who had been uncomfortable before were now looking at Hamilton with disgust. Agent Johnson, Hamilton said, his voice shaking slightly. I think there's been a big misunderstanding here. I'm not a racist. I have friends who are like your daughter. Friends who are like my daughter, Agent Johnson repeated. You mean friends who are black? Or friends who are smart? Or friends who work hard for what they achieve? Hamilton opened his mouth, but no words came out. Here's what's going to happen, Agent Johnson continued. You're going to apologize to my daughter. Then you're going to return to your seat and not bother her again for the rest of this trip. Of course, Hamilton said quickly. Maya, I'm sorry. If there was any misunderstanding, Maya looked at Hamilton with calm dignity. Mr. Hamilton, I accept your apology. I hope you learned something today. Hamilton nodded and started to walk back to his seat. But Agent Johnson wasn't finished. Mr. Hamilton, he called out. Hamilton stopped and turned around. There's something else you should know, Agent Johnson said. This badge isn't just regular FBI. He pulled out his wallet again and showed the badge more clearly. This time everyone could see that it wasn't just a standard FBI badge. There were additional symbols on it that nobody recognized. This is the Federal Bureau of Investigation, Xenological Crime Division, Agent Johnson said. I specialize in crimes involving multiple species. The alien passengers suddenly looked very alert. The one with blue-gray skin put down his note-taking device. The one in the hooded robe leaned forward. The furry one with 4 arms stood up slightly. Multiple species? Hamilton asked, confused. Agent Johnson looked at the alien passengers, then back at Hamilton. That's right, and this trip isn't just a vacation for my daughter. It's also a business trip for me. Hamilton followed Agent Johnson's gaze to the alien passengers. For the first time, he seemed to realize that there were non-humans on the ship. I don't understand, Hamilton said. Agent Johnson smiled, but it wasn't a friendly smile. You will soon, Mr. Hamilton. You will very soon. The alien passengers exchanged glances with each other. Captain Martinez looked nervous. Maya realized that her father's job was much more complicated than she had ever imagined, and Hamilton was about to learn that his racist behavior had consequences he never could have dreamed of. Hamilton stared at Agent Johnson with growing confusion and fear. Xenological Crime Division? What does that mean? Before Agent Johnson could answer, the alien passenger with blue-gray skin stood up from his seat. When he spoke, his voice sounded like wind blowing through metal pipes. Agent Johnson, the alien said, I believe it is time for introductions. Everyone in the first-class section turned to look at the alien. Most of the human passengers had never heard an alien speak before. Hamilton's mouth fell open in shock. Agent Johnson nodded to the alien. You're right, Ambassador Zeth. Ladies and gentlemen, I think you all deserve to know what's really happening on this ship. Captain Martinez looked nervous. Agent Johnson, are you sure about this? Captain, after what just happened, I think secrecy is no longer an option, Agent Johnson replied. Maya looked back and forth between her father and the aliens. Dad, what's going on? Agent Johnson put his hand on his daughter's shoulder. Maya, remember when I told you I work on special cases for the FBI? Well, those special cases involve more than just Earth. The alien called Ambassador Zeth stepped into the aisle. He was very tall and thin, with skin that looked like it was made of blue metal. His eyes were large and silver, and he wore clothes that seemed to shimmer in the light. Humans of the stellar dawn, Ambassador Zeth said in his strange voice, we are not simple passengers on this journey. We are members of the Galactic Council Security Assessment Committee. Hamilton looked like he might faint. Galactic Council? What is that? The second alien, the one in the hooded robe, stood up and pulled back her hood. Her head was shaped like a human's, but her skin was pale green and she had no hair. Instead, she had small tentacles growing from her scalp that moved slowly in the air. The Galactic Council, she said in a voice like singing, is the government that oversees peace between all the intelligent species in this part of the galaxy. My name is Counselor Vela. The third alien, the furry one with 4 arms, also stood up. He was shorter than the other two, but his 4 arms made him look very strong. His fur was golden brown, and his face looked a little like a cat's face, but with larger eyes. I am Commander Rax, he said in a voice that sounded like purring. We have been observing this journey very carefully. Hamilton looked around at all the aliens, then at Agent Johnson, then at the other human passengers. This is impossible. This can't be real. It's very real, Mr. Hamilton, Agent Johnson said, and your behavior toward my daughter has been recorded and observed by representatives of 3 different alien species. Ambassador Zeth pulled out a small device that looked like a crystal. Everything that happened in this section has been documented. Your words, your actions, your treatment of a young human female. Maya was trying to understand what was happening. "Dad, why are they here? Why are they watching us?" Captain Martinez stepped forward. "Miss Johnson, this journey isn't just regular passenger transport. It's a test." "A test?" Maya asked. Counselor Vela's tentacles moved faster as she spoke. "The Galactic Council has been watching humanity for several years. We have seen great promise in your species, but we have also seen great problems. Commander," Rax's cat-like face looked serious. "We have seen humans show amazing kindness and intelligence, but we have also seen humans show terrible cruelty to each other." Agent Johnson looked at all the passengers. "The Galactic Council needs to decide if humanity is ready to be full members of the galactic community. That decision depends partly on how humans treat each other." Hamilton's face was white as paper. You mean they were testing us?" Ambassador Zeth nodded. "We have been on several human ships, watching how humans behave when they think. No one important is looking. What we have seen varies greatly. Some humans," said Counselor Vela, "show great compassion and fairness. They defend those who are weaker. They treat all people with respect." Commander Rax looked directly at Hamilton. "Other humans show hatred and prejudice. They judge people by their appearance. They try to hurt those who are different from them." Maya began to understand. "So when Mr. Hamilton was being mean to me, you were watching to see how humans would react?" "Exactly," Agent Johnson said. "And I'm proud to say that most of the humans here defended you and stood up for what was right." The businesswoman across the aisle spoke up. "You mean this was all planned?" Captain Martinez shook her head. "No, the situation with Mr. Hamilton was completely real. We can't plan these tests. We can only observe how humans naturally behave." Hamilton found his voice again. "This is insane. You're telling me that aliens have been spying on us?" Ambassador Zeth's silver eyes focused on Hamilton. "Not spying. Mr. Hamilton, evaluating. The Galactic Council must be careful about which species we allow to join our community." "Why?" asked the elderly man from seat 3B. Counselor Vela's voice became sad. "Because we have made mistakes before. We have welcomed species that seemed peaceful, only to discover they brought violence and hatred to other worlds." Commander Rax's fur stood up slightly. 300 years ago, we accepted a species called the Krell into the Council. They seemed advanced and intelligent, but they could not stop fighting among themselves, and eventually they brought war to 12 different planets. "What happened to them?" Maya asked. "They were expelled from the Council," Ambassador Zeth said. "Their access to other worlds was cut off. They are now confined to their home system." Hamilton was shaking now. "And you think humans might be like these Krell?" Agent Johnson answered. "That's what they're trying to figure out. Can humans overcome their prejudices and hatred? Can we learn to work together with other species? Or will we bring our problems to the rest of the galaxy?" The elderly man stood up. "But surely you can see that most humans are good people. What happened here today shows that we defend each other." Counselor Vela nodded. "Yes, that is true. Most humans on this ship supported Miss Johnson. Most humans showed kindness and fairness. But," Commander Rax said, looking at Hamilton, "some humans showed exactly the kind of hatred that destroyed the Krell." Hamilton tried to defend himself. "I'm not hateful. I just think there should be order. Some people belong in some places and other people belong in other places." Ambassador Zeth made a sound that might have been laughter, but it sounded like metal scraping metal. "Mr. Hamilton, that is exactly what the Krell said. They believed some people were better than others. They believed some people deserved more than others." Maya looked at her father. "Dad, what does this mean for humanity?" Agent Johnson smiled at his daughter. "It means that the future of our entire species might depend on whether we can learn to treat each other with respect and kindness." Captain Martinez stepped forward. "There's something else you all should know. This ship isn't just carrying passengers to Kepler Station." "What do you mean?" asked the businesswoman. "Kepler Station isn't just a colony," Captain Martinez said. "It's the location of humanity's first Galactic Council embassy." The passengers looked shocked. Maya felt her heart racing. Embassy? Agent Johnson nodded. Maya, your engineering program isn't just any school. It's a training program for humans who will work with alien technology and alien species. Ambassador Zeth stepped closer to Maya. Miss Johnson, your intelligence and your behavior under pressure have been noted. You remained calm and dignified even when faced with cruelty. These are exactly the qualities we need in young humans. Maya looked around at all the faces watching her. You mean I was being tested too? Counselor Vela's tentacles moved in what might have been a smile. Not tested, Miss Johnson. Observed. And you have shown exactly the kind of character that gives us hope for humanity. Commander Rax looked at Hamilton again. You, however, Mr. Hamilton, have shown us the kind of behavior that makes us worry. Hamilton looked desperate. But I apologized. I said I was sorry. You apologized only when you learned that Maya's father was FBI, Agent Johnson pointed out. You weren't sorry for your behavior. You were sorry that you got caught. Ambassador, Zeth pulled out another device, this one looking like a small screen. Mr. Hamilton, we have recordings of everything you said and did. These recordings will be part of humanity's evaluation file. Hamilton's face went from white to green. Evaluation file? Every species that wants to join the Galactic Council must be evaluated, Counselor Vela explained. We study their behavior, their values, their ability to work with others. Maya realized something. The other passengers who supported me, they're part of humanity's evaluation too? Commander Rax nodded. Every human we observe becomes part of the file. The elderly gentleman who defended you, the businesswoman who spoke up for you, the captain who protected your rights. All of this goes into our report. Agent Johnson looked proud. And that report will show that most humans choose kindness over hatred. Most humans choose fairness over prejudice. Hamilton sat down heavily in his seat. I've ruined everything, haven't I? I've ruined it for all of humanity. Ambassador Zeth's silver eyes studied Hamilton. One human cannot ruin it for everyone, Mr. Hamilton. But your behavior will be noted, and it will have consequences. Maya looked out the window at the stars. She was beginning to understand that this journey was much more important than she had ever imagined. Not just for her, but for all of humanity. Maya looked at her father with new eyes. Dad, there's more to your job than you told me, isn't there? Agent Johnson smiled. Much more, sweetheart. The truth is, humanity's role in the galaxy is very different from what most people think. Ambassador, Zeth moved closer to the group. Perhaps it is time to tell them the full truth, Agent Johnson. Captain Martinez nodded. All passengers, please take your seats. What you're about to learn will change how you think about humanity's place in the universe. Even Hamilton, despite his fear and embarrassment, leaned forward to listen. The other, human passengers gathered closer, sensing that something very important was about to be revealed. Agent Johnson took a deep breath. Maya, you know I work for the FBI's Xenological Crime Division, but what you don't know is that we're not just investigating alien crimes on Earth. What do you mean? Maya asked. The FBI's Xenological Crime Division is actually the law enforcement arm for the entire Galactic Council, Agent Johnson explained. Human agents work throughout the galaxy, keeping peace between different species. The businesswoman gasped. You mean humans are like galactic police? Counselor Vela's tentacles moved in agreement. More than police, humans have become the primary peacekeeping force for all Council worlds. Maya couldn't believe what she was hearing. But why humans? We're just one planet. These aliens have been traveling in space much longer than we have. Commander Rax's cat-like face showed something that might have been a smile. That is exactly why humans are so valuable. You are still new to the galaxy, but you have qualities that older species have lost. Ambassador Zeth pulled out his crystal device again, but this time he pressed something on it. Suddenly, a three-dimensional image appeared in the air above the device. It showed a map of the galaxy with thousands of stars and planets. This is our galaxy, Ambassador Zeth said. 300 different intelligent species live here. For thousands of years, These species have fought wars, conquered each other, and destroyed entire worlds. The image changed to show battles between different types of spaceships. Maya could see explosions and planets burning. 50 years ago, Counselor Vela continued, the Galactic Council was falling apart. Wars were breaking out everywhere. Different species couldn't work together. Many council members wanted to give up on the idea of peace. The image changed again, showing Earth as a small blue dot. Then we discovered humanity, Commander Rax said. You were still fighting your own wars, but you showed something we had never seen before. What? Asked the elderly man. Agent Johnson answered, the ability to change, the ability to learn from our mistakes. Most species in the galaxy are set in their ways. They've been the same for thousands of years, but humans are different. The image showed human spaceships working alongside alien ships. When humans first joined the Council, Ambassador Zeth explained, we thought you would be just another member species, but within 10 years, something amazing happened. Maya watched the images with fascination. What happened? Humans started solving problems that other species couldn't solve, Counselor Vela said. When two alien species had a war, human negotiators could make peace. When there was a crime that involved multiple species, human investigators could find the truth. Commander Rax's forearms gestured toward Agent Johnson. Your father is one of the best peacekeepers in the galaxy. He has solved conflicts that had been going on for centuries. Maya looked at her father with amazement. Dad, is this true? Agent Johnson nodded. Last year, I helped end a war between two species that had been fighting for 300 years. The year before that, I caught a criminal who had been stealing from 12 different planets. Hamilton, who had been listening in shocked silence, finally spoke up. This is impossible. If humans are so important to the galaxy, why doesn't everyone on Earth know about it? Captain Martinez answered. Because the transition has to be gradual. If everyone on Earth learned the truth at once, it would cause panic and chaos. What transition? Asked the businesswoman. Agent Johnson looked serious. Earth isn't just a planet anymore. It's the headquarters of galactic peacekeeping. What most people think are human colonies are actually peacekeeping bases throughout the galaxy. The image above Ambassador Zeth's device changed to show Kepler Station, but it looked much bigger and more complex than Maya had imagined. Kepler Station, Counselor Vela explained, is the largest peacekeeping training facility in the galaxy. Humans from all over Earth come there to learn how to work with alien species and alien technology. Maya felt her heart racing. My engineering program is actually training for galactic peacekeeping, Agent Johnson said proudly. Maya, you're going to learn how to maintain technology from dozens of different species. You'll help keep the peace between worlds that are millions of miles apart. Commander Rax looked at Maya with his large eyes. Your test scores in mathematics and science were excellent, but more importantly, your psychological profiles showed the right kind of character for peacekeeping work. What kind of character? Maya asked. Ambassador Zeth answered. Fairness, courage, the ability to stay calm under pressure, the ability to treat all beings with respect, regardless of how they look or where they come from. Maya thought about how she had handled Hamilton's attack. She had been scared, but she had stayed polite and dignified. She had not let his hatred make her hateful. But what about people like Mr. Hamilton? Asked the elderly man. If humans have these good qualities, why do some humans still act like he did? Agent Johnson looked at Hamilton, who was staring at the floor in shame. Every species has individuals who haven't learned to overcome their fears and prejudices. The question is whether the species as a whole can grow beyond those individuals. Counselor, Vela's voice became gentle. That is why we test. We need to know if humanity as a whole is ready for the responsibility of galactic peacekeeping. Hamilton looked up. What happens to humans like me? Am I going to be punished? Commander Rax studied Hamilton carefully. That depends on what you do next, Mr. Hamilton. Do you understand why your behavior was wrong? Hamilton was quiet for a long moment. Then he looked at Maya. I was wrong because I judged you by how you looked instead of who you are. I was wrong Because I tried to make you feel small to make myself feel big. Maya was surprised by Hamilton's honest answer. That is a start, Ambassador Zeth said. But understanding is not enough. You must also change your actions. Agent Johnson pulled out his wallet again, but this time he showed a different card. Mr. Hamilton, this identifies me as a Level 7 Galactic Peacekeeper. I have the authority to arrest criminals on any council world. Hamilton's face went white again. Are you going to arrest me? That depends, Agent Johnson said. Are you willing to learn? Are you willing to change? Captain Martinez stepped forward. Mr. Hamilton, when we reach Kepler Station, you'll have a choice. You can take the next ship back to Earth and continue living the way you always have. Or you can stay and attend classes about working with different species and different cultures. Hamilton looked around at all the faces watching him. Classes? Counselor Vela nodded. Many humans need to learn how to overcome their fears of those who are different. It is not a shameful thing to need to learn. It is only shameful to refuse. To learn. Maya looked at Hamilton with something that might have been pity. Mr. Hamilton, I think you're scared of people who are different because you don't understand them. Maybe if you learned more about different kinds of people, you wouldn't be so afraid. Hamilton stared at Maya for a long time. You're right, he said quietly. I am scared. I've been scared of change my whole life. I've been scared of people who are different because I didn't understand them. Commander Rax's fur smoothed down, which seemed to be a good sign. Fear can be overcome with knowledge and experience, Mr. Hamilton. But you must be willing to try. Agent Johnson looked at his daughter. Maya, you're going to be part of something incredible. You're going to help keep peace between hundreds of different worlds and species. Maya looked out the window at the stars. Each one of those points of light might have planets with intelligent life. And somehow humans had become the ones responsible for keeping all those different species working together peacefully. Dad, Maya said, are you proud to be human? Agent Johnson smiled. I've never been more proud, sweetheart. Despite our problems, despite people like Mr. Hamilton, humans have shown the galaxy something amazing. We've shown that it's possible to change, to grow, to become better than we were. Ambassador Zeth made his metal scraping sound again. That is why the Council trusts humanity with galactic peacekeeping. Not because you are perfect, but because you never stop trying to improve. Maya realized that her journey to engineering, school had become something much bigger. She was going to be part of humanity's mission to bring peace to the entire galaxy. And even Hamilton might have a chance to become part of that mission, if he was brave enough to change. The three alien representatives moved to a quiet corner of the first-class section to discuss what they had witnessed. Maya could see them talking in low voices, with Ambassador Zeth occasionally pointing his crystal device at different human passengers. The businesswoman, the elderly couple, and even Captain Martinez were being quietly observed and recorded. They're making their decision about humanity, aren't they? Maya asked her father. Agent Johnson nodded. Their report will go directly to the Galactic Council. It will influence whether humans continue to serve as peacekeepers, or whether we lose that responsibility. Hamilton sat in his seat with his head in his hands. I've destroyed everything. I've ruined humanity's future because I couldn't control my prejudice. The elderly man from seat 3B walked over to Hamilton. Son, one person's mistakes don't define an entire species. What matters now is what you do next. Maya looked at Hamilton with something she hadn't expected to feel. Sympathy. Mr. Hamilton, you made a mistake, but you also admitted you were wrong. That shows you can change. Hamilton looked up at Maya with tears in his eyes. How can you be kind to me after what I said to you? Because that's what humans do, Maya replied. We forgive. We help each other become better. The three aliens finished their discussion and returned to the group. Ambassador Zeth held his crystal device, which was now glowing with a soft blue light. We have reached our preliminary conclusion, Ambassador Zeth announced. Captain Martinez looked nervous. And what have you decided? Counselor Vela stepped forward, her tentacles moving slowly. We observed one human showing significant prejudice, and hatred toward another human based solely on physical appearance. Hamilton's face went pale. However, Commander Rax continued, we also observed multiple humans defending the victim. We saw a ship's captain upholding fairness and justice. We saw a father protecting his daughter with wisdom and restraint. Agent Johnson remained calm, but Maya could see he was worried about the outcome. Most importantly, Ambassador Zeth said, looking directly at Maya, we saw a young human maintaining dignity and grace under attack. She did not respond to hatred with hatred. She responded with strength and kindness. Maya felt her cheeks getting warm. She had never thought of herself as particularly brave or special. We also observed something else, Counselor Vela added, looking at Hamilton. We saw the human who showed prejudice beginning to recognize his error and express genuine remorse. Hamilton looked surprised. You think my apology was genuine? Commander Rax's cat-like eyes studied Hamilton carefully. Your first apology was not genuine. You apologized only because you learned Maya's father was powerful. But your second apology showed real understanding of your mistake. Ambassador Zeth pressed something on his crystal device, and a new holographic image appeared. This time it showed a document with writing in many different alien languages. This is our preliminary report to the Galactic Council, Ambassador Zeth said. It states that humanity continues to show the characteristics necessary for galactic peacekeeping. Maya felt relief wash over her. You mean humanity passed the test? This test, Counselor Vela corrected. There will be many more tests as humanity grows into its role as peacekeepers. The ship's intercom crackled to life. All passengers, please prepare for arrival at Kepler Station. We will be docking in 30 minutes. Maya looked out the window and gasped. Kepler Station was enormous, much bigger than any structure she had ever imagined. It looked like a small city floating in space with thousands of lights and dozens of docking bays. Ships of all different shapes and sizes were coming and going from the station. That's where I'm going to school? Maya asked. Agent Johnson smiled. That's where you're going to help change the galaxy. As the ship moved closer to the station, Maya could see that many of the other ships didn't look human. Some were long and thin like needles. Others were round like balls. One looked like it was made entirely of crystal. Ships from dozens of different species, Commander Rax explained, all working together to keep peace in the galaxy. Hamilton stood up from his seat. Agent Johnson, what's going to happen to me when we dock? Agent Johnson looked at the alien representatives, then back at Hamilton. That's up to you, Mr. Hamilton. You have 3 choices. What choices? First, Agent Johnson said, you can take the next transport back to Earth. You can pretend this never happened and go back to your old life. Hamilton nodded slowly. What's the second choice? Counselor Vela answered. You can stay on Kepler Station and attend our cultural education program. You would learn about different species and different ways of thinking. It would take 6 months. And the third choice? Hamilton asked. Ambassador Zeth's silver eyes gleamed. You can apply to join the Galactic Peacekeeping Program yourself. It would take 2 years of training, but you could help make sure that what happened to Maya never happens to anyone else. Hamilton stared at the aliens in shock. You would let me become a peacekeeper? After what I did? Commander Rax's forearms spread wide. Mr. Hamilton, some of the best peacekeepers are people who once had to overcome their own prejudices. They understand how hatred works because they once felt it themselves. Maya looked at Hamilton with new interest. Mr. Hamilton, maybe you could help other people learn not to judge others by how they look. Hamilton was quiet for a long moment. Finally, he spoke. I've spent my whole life being afraid of people who were different from me. Maybe it's time I learned to see them as just people. The ship docked at Kepler Station with a gentle bump. Through the windows, Maya could see the docking bay filled with humans and aliens working together. Some wore uniforms she recognized as similar to her father's. Others wore clothes from different cultures and species. Captain Martinez made an announcement. All passengers, welcome to Kepler Station. Please gather your belongings and prepare to disembark. Agent Johnson put his arm around Maya's shoulders. Ready for your new adventure, sweetheart? Maya looked around at all the faces, human and alien, that had become part of her story. Dad, will I see you at the station? I'll be here for 3 days before my next assignment, Agent Johnson said. I wouldn't miss your orientation ceremony. Ambassador Zeth approached Maya with something in his hands. It was a small crystal, pendant on a chain. Miss Johnson, he said, this is a communication device that will allow you to speak with representatives from any council species. Consider it a welcome gift to humanity's newest peacekeeper in training. Maya took the pendant with shaking hands. Thank you. I promise I'll work hard to make humanity proud. Counselor Vela's tentacles moved in what Maya now recognized as a smile. You already have, Miss Johnson, you already have. As the passengers began to leave the ship, Hamilton approached Maya one last time. Maya, he said quietly, I want you to know that meeting you changed my life. I'm going to stay and take those classes. Maybe someday I can help other people learn what I learned today. Maya shook Hamilton's hand. Good luck, Mr. Hamilton. I think you're going to surprise yourself with how much you can change. Agent Johnson watched his daughter walk off the ship and onto Kepler Station. She looked so small next to the massive structure, but he knew she was ready for this challenge. The alien representatives gathered their things and prepared to leave. Agent Johnson, Ambassador Zeth said, your daughter will make an excellent peacekeeper. She has the most important quality for the job. What's that? Agent Johnson asked. Commander Rax answered. She sees others not as enemies or threats, but as people worth protecting. As Maya walked through the corridors of Kepler Station, she saw humans and aliens working side by side. She saw children from different species playing together. She saw art and technology and ideas from hundreds of different worlds all coming together in one place. She thought about how this journey had started with one man's hatred and prejudice, but it had ended with understanding, forgiveness, and the promise of change. Maybe that was what made humans special in the galaxy. Not that they were perfect, but that they never stopped trying to become better. Maya Johnson, future galactic peacekeeper, walked toward her new life with confidence and hope. Behind her, Richard Hamilton was signing up for cultural education classes, ready to begin his own journey of change. And throughout the galaxy, other humans continued their work of keeping peace between the stars, proving every day that humanity deserved its place as protectors of countless worlds and countless lives. The story that began with prejudice and hatred had become a story of growth, understanding, and hope for the future of all intelligent life in the galaxy.